Hi, my name's Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video on Microsoft 365. It's been a little while since I did a video because I was finishing up a new edition of my book and changed the name a little bit to reflect the new brand name. So creating business applications with Microsoft 365 second edition. So if you haven't picked that up, I encourage you to take a look. You can get on Amazon and other places. So you can see it here on Amazon. And it's so new, don't have any reviews yet, so please give you some reviews, but come down and learn some more, and looks like selling pretty well so far. Now today's example we don't actually cover in the book, though. I wanted to talk to you about Power Automate Desktop. I've spent a lot of time in the book about regular Power Automate, the web version, but getting into desktop a little bit, and thought I'd just show you some examples there. So let's jump over to SharePoint. And what I want to do is automate a form, a web form, just to kind of show how it is. And the difference, by the way, of Power Automate versus Power Automate Desktop is the Power Automate Desktop allows you to do Robotic Process Automation, or RPA. So it actually captures the mouse clicks and that kind of stuff. So it's great for working with an application that doesn't have a programming interface to get the data you want, and you need to go in and log in and so forth. So lots of power that you can do there. And I just wanted to do a SharePoint form. I actually started with a Microsoft form, but the date pop-up doesn't seem to work very well. I tried a number of ones that are online. So rather than mess around with something that didn't completely work, I went with SharePoint instead. So you see, I just have summary, office, start date, end date, and justification. And the idea, and typically how it works, let me switch over to Excel, is I've got an Excel file that's got all the entries for my form. So again, office, summary, start date, end date, and justification. And the idea is that we read this and just fill out multiple versions of the form and automate that process. So these can be hundreds or even thousands of entries, and go in, and it works with the credentials of the person running the automation. That's called an attending or attended automation. So let's give it a shot. I just want to build one. So what we want to do is first get to the new form. So this is the form I want to fill out, but I want to copy this link, and I'm going to copy that. And actually, it turns out it has more in it than we need. So I'm going to just go in there and press return. And the part, being an old SharePoint administrator, I know that all we really need is this first part to the new form. So we'll kind of go over there and just paste that in, make sure it works. So that's what we're going to try to fill out automatically. So let's go over to Power Automate Desktop, which you can download. And you may need your administrator credentials and things like that. So I'm going to do a new flow. And I'm just going to call it SharePoint form video. It will give us a new window there. And again, it looks kind of similar to regular Power Automate in the browser, but we've got lots of choices. And notice you can record and learn a lot, but I found that I actually prefer to kind of build it step by step. And the search box is pretty helpful here. So first thing I want to do is read Excel. So I can just type in Excel here, and I want to launch Excel. And I don't want to do a blank document. I want to open my document, which is in my Documents, Videos, Power Automate Desktop, and I can leave the default. And the next thing I want to do is read from the Excel worksheet, and notice how it made this variable. It's really important. It does the same thing when we get to the browser, so it kind of already knows our Excel instance. And then we come in, and I'm just going to read all available values. And then a couple other things that come in. I want to have the cell contents as text. Otherwise, it interprets that. It looks like a date, but it starts putting the time and everything. And then also, I want the first line to be column names. so it doesn't try to make those data. And notice it's going to put it into the Excel data. I could give it a different name, but that's fine. And then what I want to do is I want to close Excel because I don't need that open. So I can just take that as the default. So next thing I need to do is, the idea is I'm going to loop through the rows. And so that's something called, if you do some programming, you might be familiar with it, is a for each loop. So I just drag that on. And then I can click here to get my variables. And what I want is my Excel data. And it already suggests current item, which is great. I'll leave that. So now I'm going to loop through each row. So what do I want to do in each row? So I'm going to type in Chrome, because I could do Chrome or Edge, and both of them seem to work. In some cases, I've gotten better results with Edge, but I usually like to try the non-Microsoft product just to make sure it's kind of works with all the browsers. So I'm going to come in to Chrome, and I'm going to launch a new instance. And remember, I put that in the clipboard, the URL. Now notice what happens when I get there. I get an invalid value. So I'll look that up online. It turns out it doesn't like this percent. And by the way, the %20 is just a space. So you could just put a space in there, but you also can escape it. So you just put 2 percentages in there. And we don't need the rest. So I'm going to launch the Chrome instance. And then now what I want to do is, let's go back, and I want to build what we're going to do for each area. So we capture that. But first I'm going to just type in populate. It's under the web form browser automation. So we're going to do a lot of populate. So I'm just going to leave that open for a minute. Oh, and actually, let me do this one, and then I will show you. I do want to have a variable as well. So I'm going to, there's no UI element, so I say add UI element. It gives me a nice little element picker here. And I'll just kind of do it on this side so you can see it. And notice I have to do control and mouse click. So that's the key, is I want that input text. I'm going to hold the control key and do it, and it loads up the form and the input text in. And then I got to decide, well, what do I want to put in there? Notice this is the summary. So I click this and I select current item. But I need to tell it what in the current item I want. So you have to look this up as well, but I need to put the column name. And so I named it summary with single quotes. And it probably would work with double quotes as well. And we say save. So that will give us the way to go through it. Now I mentioned I want a variable. So let me go ahead and do a variable here. So I'm going to set a variable before we start. So I can put it in here. And I'm just going to call it current row number. And I'm going to, this all starts 0 base. So I'm just going to start it with 0. And it's more kind of showing off a little bit, but I want to go ahead and I'm going to close each browser window as I'm done, but then the last one I'm going to leave it open just so you can see it, kind of thing is what I'm going to do. But often you could do some other stuff there. So what I'm going to do is I can increase the variable inside the loop. So I'll pick this current row number, and then I'll increase by 1. And that's actually a little bit easier than saying set the variable to the current value plus 1. It does the same kind of thing. So, and then let's go look back at the form. So, because our next one's going to be a little more challenging. So we're going to put something like, test in here. But notice what happens if I look at this. I've got to click on it. And then when I click, it turns into a entry. And then I've got 4. This is a choice column, but I've given it the option that they can add additional ones. And so what you have to do is you have to, like if I type in, then I actually have to press the enter key to get it to stay. And so that's important because at first it doesn't work. if you try to just go right to this form, the form or the field doesn't turn into the field until you click on it once. So again, if we go out of here, I'm going to want to click it. It turns into a form. I'm going to type something in and I'm going to press the enter key. That's kind of the most challenging one on this. So let's go back to our automate. So we're going to do a focus. So focus text field on web page. And that's enough to click on it. So again, we're going to add a UI element. It kind of comes off my screen. Control and click. And notice that I did the div that was there. So that's good. And then we're going to do it again. We'll go back to populate. And I might be tempted to try to use the same element, but I don't. It actually creates that or makes that element when I'm ready. So I got to come in here and again add a UI element. And I've got to click on it first and then notice how it says input text. I'm not sure where my screen went. Yeah, there it went. And then now what I want to put in, kind of like I did before. So I'll put in the current item and I'll call this office. And that's pretty much the hardest one. The rest of these are pretty straightforward, including the dates. It allows you to type them straight in. So let's just keep doing that. We'll put in the dates. So that's the start date. And like I said, I could copy and paste these, but I find it just as easy to go ahead. Since I have to do this add UI element every time anyway, might as well go in and just create it from scratch. This is the end date. And I'm going to want one more. Go back. Oh yeah, populate again first. Bring this over. And we'll type in the justification. All right. Oops. Set invalid value, so I must have done something wrong there. Let's try it again. Oops. Oh, I forgot my in brackets. So notice how it showed me that. So it got rid of our thing. So last thing we want to do is we want to click the button. And so I have press button on web page. Notice I could do either one, but I'm going to click this one here. And I like to do the one that says button. So I'm just going to hold the control key and say button. And that will save the form. So now I'm going to use my variable. So I want to do, and let me just get rid of all this because I've been searching, but you may not. You have to look at them too, so you can come in and you can also drill down in here. So I'm going to do a conditional. I won't search this time. I'll just do the if. So I'm going to say if current row number is less than, and now I need to find out how many rows do I have. Well, I come in here and go to the data, and then I've got a row count. So if it's less than the row count, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to browser and I'm going to close. Because that, otherwise we end up with, 5 or 6 windows all open. So I notice it remembers my browser instance. So far so good. We'll try that. You probably have an error in there, but we'll debug it. I'm going to go in and do a message. It's kind of fun to show at the end. So I've got some message boxes here. So I'll come down at the end and I'll say completed automation. And I'll also use that row count. So we can say automated, and I'll put in the number of rows, items from Excel. And we'll make it information. All right, let's save all that. And then one thing I've learned from doing this is when you're testing, don't open or don't move the mouse at all, because that messes things up. So, and you may have to put some weights and that kind of stuff in as well. So it very often doesn't work the first time, but let's give it a shot. See what we do. So I'm going to go ahead and run it, and now I'm not going to move the mouse, and hopefully the browser window will come up in the right spot. Watch as it sometimes does Excel. Yeah. So watch where they press enter. Oh, so it didn't quite work. So I needed a return. I need a little bit of a wait there. So it didn't quite work. It's putting in the summary, but when I put in the office, it's not actually taking. See how it ends up with a dash. So it looks like the rest of it's coming in and it's pressing and it's just launching each one of those and then closing it. So we'll just let it finish and I'll delete those records. But it's kind of cool, right? See, and again, that start and end date's the one on a Microsoft form that was having trouble because it's got a pop-up dialog box. And even though you can try using JavaScript and a couple other things to set that directly, at least for me, it didn't work. So I went over to SharePoint instead. So there it was, automated our 5 items, and everything worked except for the office. So let's go ahead and close this. And we'll go back. I did one of these. Let's see if I think I did do a wait. Oh, no, I forgot a step. Right. I talked about it. I did talk about doing the enter key and I didn't do it. So if you look here, I set the focus and then I enter it, but I didn't actually send the enter key. So let's put in keys, and notice it has a send keys. And so that's what I want, is this one here. So I got to put it in the right spot. So after I put in the office, then I have to say, do the right key I want and say enter, and it actually puts it in as return. There we go. Like I said, I could put a wait in there, but I don't think I actually need to. So let me save that. Then I'm going to go over and let's delete all these. Go over here, you see I have all these ones we just did, so I'm just going to delete all those so we can make sure we're starting from scratch. All right, let's try it again. So let's go over to this and we'll run it. Again, not moving the mouse. And you said sometimes you'll see a flash of the Excel pop up, and sometimes you don't. There it was. You can see it read the Excel file. And I'll show you when it's done how we can debug. Notice I should be pressing the enter. Yeah, see how it kept the engineering there this time because I sent the enter key after submitting each one. So now it's looping through, updating our variable. And the first four are all in the choice ones. And then the third one, or the fifth one, you'll see it actually says add. But again, the enter key does the add. So it allows even to put values that aren't already there. So there was IT was there, putting in our dates. So marketing's there. Now watch the next time around we'll put in sales, which wasn't in our list. And it'll say add on it. And this is obviously our last one as well, so it won't close the window. So there's sales. See how it says add? Again, we pressed the enter key, so that worked. We went ahead and saved it, but did not close the window, so we could look at it. So worked pretty well. Again, more trial and error. There are some places, like if you have to have like a certificate or something like that, I found where sometimes you can even have options where you can take a screen capture inside a Power Automate desktop and have it look on the screen for that picture and move the mouse to that and things like that. So it's pretty darn powerful. Let me show you a couple debugging things before I sign off. So if I go back here, you can see while this flow is running, I can go in and I can look. So there's my current item. See, so if I had any trouble with it, that was the last one that we read, or I can look at all of my data and just make sure that it's reading it correctly. Notice how it put a number in there, the row number, but our data didn't actually have that. So there's all the things that we read, and we can even look at our current row number. It incremented from 1 to 5, and that's why it didn't close the browser on the last time. So all right, well, I hope this was useful. And again, check out a copy of the book and put some comments in and let us know, and particularly if you figured out how to automate on the Microsoft Forms date one, put it in there to help the rest of us. Thanks and have a good day.